back, everybody, to another ASMR video. We today are going to look through another early Game Informer magazine from the spring issue of 1992. I believe this was the fourth ever Game Informer magazine that ever released. And each issue has gotten that much bigger. The first issue, if you remember that video, was like 12 pages at the max. And now I think we're up to over 45, 50 in this one. So there's a giant difference between the two, from the beginning to even the fourth episode. So this magazine has CD-ROM technology, past, present, and future. Special golf review section, and then Chameleon Ease 3 and TMNT 3 are being previewed. And then Super Adventure Island is on the cover here. We have an ad for Zardion. Zardion from Asmic. The Super Nintendo Entertainment System here. So, we have Baseball 2000 again, an advertisement, 91 Game Boy Game of the Year, and the 91 Strategy Game of the Year, and then advertisement also for the Super NES. These were interesting. These were when Nintendo was having their fight with Tengen, and Tengen wanted to publish games more than 4, and Nintendo said no. They started to publish unlicensed games. The problem is, Nintendo threatened to pull inventory for any store that carried Tengen games. So while this was going on, Camerica, who made the Game Genie in Europe, and it was published by, I think, Galoob here in America, but Camerica made some unlicensed games as well, and here are 2 of them. So you got 4 games on a cartridge. Okay. So here's a review of Wacky Races from Atlas for the NES. And Ross gave it a terrible score of 5.75. But Ed and Andy both gave it over a 7. Then we have a review for Ultimate Stuntman for the NES. This is also from Camerica Games, and this got pretty good reviews. Rick gave it an 8, Ed gave it an 8, and Ross is pretty tough. He gave it a 7.5. Here we go, we're going to read this review. TMNT3, the Manhattan Project. The 3rd time's a charm for this fab foursome. Again for the NES. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Heroes on the Half Shell. Turtle Power. I always thought it was Turtle Heroes in a Half Shell. This may be wrong. It says Heroes on the Half Shell. Guys, in the comments section below, look up if you want and see what the actual lyrics are. For years as a kid, I always thought the song was saying, heroes in a half shell. But here it says, heroes on the half shell. So I don't think that's right. But anyway. All right. Don't deny it. I know you. Sing along when you hear that familiar theme music. When I first heard about the green guy craze, I thought, you gotta be kidding. When my little cousin grows up and his history teacher asks him who Leonardo or Michelangelo were, he'll say they were turtles with an attitude. Well, it looks like the mutants of the martial arts are here to stay, and they've come back stronger than ever for their third adventure for the 8-bit Nintendo system. Once again, they're out to rescue their TV reporter friend, April. You would think she would have learned by now. She has been carted off and is being held captive by Shredder, along with the entire island of Manhattan, which has been suspended mid-air above the Hudson and East Rivers. Shredder sends the turtles a special message via the boob tube. You want 'em, come and get 'em. The turtles will have to give up their fun in the sun to save the day. That is, if they make it back to New York in one piece. You'll be up against familiar foes like Bebop, Rocksteady, Leatherhead, Krang, and the Foot Soldiers, as well as a slew of new troops. That Shredder has been a busy guy. But our favorite amphibians have some new moves of their own. Mike shows off a forceful mule kick that puts out the enemy's lights before they know it's hit them. Donatello does an impressive little flip finished off with a thrust of his bow staff. Leo makes like a helicopter and becomes a spinning blur of blades, while Raphael masters a headfirst power drill aided by the sharp prongs of the sai. And their special turbo moves to their usual repertoire, and the new jab and toss trick, and our heroes are ready for almost anything. These tortoises will have to stay on their toes in this 8-level game. There are only 3 continues, and you have a long way to go. You will spend the first 2 levels just trying to make it back to the Big Apple. From there you'll find the much anticipated sewers, subways, and streets of New York, and onto Krang's spaceship. Throughout the trip, the turtles will be barraged by bad guys. Why is it that the wicked never seem to rest? If you find that going it alone is just too much for you, there is a 2-player option. 2 turtles can tag team it in a cooperative effort. To make things really interesting, select the 2-player mode that allows you to fight against your shellmate as well as the Shredder's minions. Either way, you find the sequel is packed with tons of fast action and combat intensity. This is no shell game. All this work makes me hungry for a pizza. Every so often a cart comes out that really pushes the NES system to its limits. One quick look at TMNT3 and you'll agree this easily falls into their category. All the charm of the turtles is here. Check out their smug looks when they defeat the enemy. Equally as fun are the looks you'll get when they get burned to a crisp or stand around getting bored. Time and attention has really gone into the graphics and gameplay, but you will notice some flickering when the action really heats up. If you are in the mood for a bogus adventure or feel this strange desire to go slumming in the sewers, pick up this newest title from Konami. It's the best Turtles yet, and real fans of the Fab Four will be happy to hear that a TMNT4 is in the works for your SNES. Until then, cowabunga, dudes. Well, as usual, Ross gave this game the lowest review. He gave it a 7.25. Andy gave it a 9, and Rick gave it an 8.5. So we're going to go with the highest and lowest reviews here. So we'll start with Ross, the Rebel Gamer. He gave the concept of this game a 6. G, TMNT and TMNT2 sold well. Let's make another TMNT, dudes. No, wait. It's TMNT2 Revisited. I'm sorry, guys. Ever hear of Overkill? So he's basically saying that they just recycled the second game and made a third for a cash grab. Graphics and animation gave an 8. This cart hasn't lost anything for new and improved sprites. Cowabunga. TMNT2 or TMNT3 does sport some sweet graphics. Sound was a 7. If you played any TMNT video, you've basically heard the music before, but there is an additional voice feature that bumps this one up above the other two versions in the sound department. He gave playability a 9. This edition is pure challenge straight from the start right through to the finish. They may give you ample continues, but this TMNT never lost its charm. And then entertainment value is an 8. This game is incredible amounts of fun for all ages. It has excellent graphics. It's easy to see that the Turtles have kept up with their training. Their new moves will keep you hopping. See, this is kind of, he's kind of talking out of both sides of his mouth. He's saying the fact that this game was even made is ridiculous. But then he also says over here that the game is amazing. So it's like, why are you mad that a game came out even though the game's amazing? Andy gave this overall a 9. Everything was 9 or above except sound. He gave sound a 5, which is strange. Both Ross and Rick gave sound a 7. But anyway, concept is a 9. The most recent installment of the Turtles trilogy didn't let me down. This game is a perfect example that the old 8-bit Nintendo is still a great entertainment system. Graphics and animation 9.5. The Turtles still suffer from slowdown and flash, but as you play the game you'll notice it less and less. The graphics are much improved, even over the second version. Our favorite sewer dwellers even sport some new moves where the animation is flawless. Sound was a 5. It isn't the focus of this game, but in its favor, it works as a background and it's not annoying. Playability is a 9. Here again, if you like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, you'll love TMNT 3. There's not much room for improvement here, and when you've got a good thing, go with it. And entertainment value is a 9. This cart will give you hours of play with characters you'll enjoy. This game should be on everyone's shopping list. Here's the interesting thing. I don't think they're doing it this way, but if you took the 5 categories and added them up, you're at 41.5. If you divide that by 5, this should be an 8, not a 9, because of the 5 score there. Okay, we got some codes that some readers sent in for different games. Astynex from NES, Batman 2 Return of the Joker, Bubble Bobble, Snake's Revenge, Big Nose the Caveman, Tiny Toon Adventures, Willow, Metal Gear, F-Zero for the Super Nintendo, Super Ghouls and Ghosts, Darius Twin, Earth Defense Force, Joe and Mac. We have Nemesis for Game Boy, Final Fantasy Legend 2, Super Mario Land, Ghouls and Ghosts for the Genesis, Pit Fighter, Tommy Lasorda Baseball, Joe Montana Sports Talk Football, John Madden 92, Spider-Man, Turrican, and Sonic the Hedgehog here. So let's read this Super Mario Land tip that somebody sent in here. There are many places in the game where you will come across small crevices you must go through, but they are seemingly only big enough for small Mario. This is a problem when you are Super Mario. Well, you can go under even when you're big. Get right to the crevice right next to it, press down to crouch, and then go right or left depending on the direction you are headed. Hold down right and repeatedly press down until Mario's head is completely covering the first block. Then while holding down the down and right buttons, repeatedly press the A or jump button until you reach the other side. This tip is especially helpful in World 1 and 2 when you want to get to the large stash of coins covered by the pyramid of blocks. I hope this trick helps some fellow Game Boy players. I'm going to try that. I'm going to throw Super Mario Land into my Game Boy and see if that actually works. Okay, we have an ad for Paperboy for the Genesis. I believe it's for the Genesis, yeah. So we have Paperboy, Pit Fighter, RBI Baseball 3. No, RBI Baseball 3 is for the NES. No, it's for the Genesis. And then Dragon's Fury also for the Genesis. Okay. Talking about the Simpsons games. And they're pretending to interview Bart. They reviewed Super Adventure Island, and Andy gave it an 8.5, Ed gave it a 9.25, and Rick gave it a 7. They reviewed Ys 3, and it got pretty good reviews. Rick a 7, Ed an 8.5, and Andy an 8.75. When does Ys 3 come out for Super Nintendo? Okay. Then they reviewed Earth Defense Force from Jalico for the SNES. And Andy gave it a 9, but Ed and Rick both gave it 7s. Okay, the winner 1992 20 bestsellers list. This is from Funcoland, I believe. Nintendo. So you got Super Mario Duck Hunt in first, Super Mario 3, Super Mario 2, Blades of Steel, Tecmo Bowl, Super Mario, Contra, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, TMNT 2 is 9, Dragon Warrior is 10, Ice Hockey is 11, Tetris is 12, Metroid is 13, Double Dribble is 14, Castlevania 2 is 15, Section Z is 16, Rad Racer, Ninja Gaiden, Golf, and Double Dragon. For the Game Boy Top 20, let's see how many of these I had, or have, I should say. Super Mario Land, yeah, I got that. Skater Die 2, never had that game. TMNT Fall of the Foot Clan, I have that. Castlevania Adventure, nope. Tetris is a yes. Golf is a no. Motocross Maniac I had when I started collecting Game Boy games, and same with Castlevania Adventure, and actually same with Golf. Skater Die 2 is the only one I never ever owned, but I had the others that I don't have anymore. I sold them all when COVID hit, but as a kid, Super Mario Land, TMNT, Tetris, Final Fantasy Legend is 8, Gargoyle's Quest is 9, NFL Football is 10, I had that. Baseball from Nintendo is 11, I had that. Operation C is 12, I had that. Spider-Man, I had that. Tennis, I had that. Mercenary Force, Dr. Mario, NBA All-Stars, I had that. RoboCop, and Alleyway and Quicks, I had both of those. So of the 20, I want to say that I had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 12, all right, 11. 11 out of 20. And then Sega Genesis titles. Altered Beast is number 1. Sonic the Hedgehog, John Madden Football, Lakers vs. Celtics, Ghouls and Ghosts, Phantasy Star 2, Golden Axe, Buster Douglas Boxing, Tommy Lasorda's Baseball, NHL Hockey, Strider, Super Monaco GP, Phantasy Star 3, Revenge of Shinobi, Spider-Man, Michael Jackson's Moonwalker, Rambo 3, Soccer, Centurion, and Batman. These are the prices that they showed you, what the games were worth and what they sold them for. So on the left-hand side, that's what they would give you, and then they would sell them on the number on the right-hand side. Can you believe this? Super Jeopardy for the NES, they would have given you $26 to trade it in, and then sold a used copy of Super Jeopardy for $44. A used copy of Super Jeopardy. They even had Neo Geo. When I went to Funcoland as a kid, I don't think they had Neo Geo where I was in my stores, but all right, Kid Chameleon for the Genesis got a 9 from Ed, a 9.5 from Rick, and a 9 from Ross. And as you remember, Ross is pretty hard on games, but he gave graphics and animation, he gave it a 10. Wow. All right, Rolling Thunder 2 for the NES. I think it came out for the NES. Andy gave it a 9, Rick is 6.5, and Ross is 7. Oh no, this is for the Genesis. Rolling Thunder 2 is for the Genesis. Okay. And then Pilot Wings for the Super Nintendo. Mark Gallagher, guest review, gave it a 7. And he's actually an actual corporate pilot for, right here, for Funcoland. So they actually had a pilot review the game Pilot Wings. Outrun for the Genesis. Rick gave it a 7, Ed a 9, and Andy an 8.25. They're reviewing a controller called the Game Handler. I never even heard of this. So it works for they had one for the NES, a Genesis one, and a TurboGrafx 16, and the Super NES. And then they also made them for the IBM PC and Apple II. Alright, they reviewed Q*bert for the Game Boy. Ed gave it an 8.5, Andy gave it an 8.25, and Ross gave it a 6.25. And they're talking about this article about the history of the CD-ROM and how CD-ROMs are now going into video games like the Neo Geo, or the PC Engine Duo, I should say, the Philips CDI. And they're talking about the Sega Mega CD, which eventually turned into, I believe, the Sega CD. Mega CD maybe in Japan. Got an advertisement for the Consumer Electronics Show, CES 1992 in Chicago. Here's an ad for the Game Handler. PGA Tour Golf for the Super Nintendo and Genesis. Let's see how they stacked up against each other. So Ross gave the Sega Genesis a slightly lower score, 7 to 7.25. And the only difference was the graphics and animation were bigger or better on the SNES, he says. Andy gave the Genesis version an 8.75, on the Super Nintendo a 9. And Rick gave the Genesis a 7 and the Super Nintendo a 7.5. So the Super Nintendo got a better review. And then they reviewed Super Golf for the Game Gear. Ed gave it a 7.7. Ross gave it a 4.75, and Rick gave it a 6.2. So it seems now that they're actually, this is, I think, the first review, or this right here, this golf here is the first review that they're actually adding the scores up. And giving an actual number that it is, like, and not just creating a roundabout number. This review right here, 7.7. Every review has either been in quarter of a point decimals, but here we have a 6.2, a 7.7, and then Wiley Country Club for the SNES. Andy gave it an 8, Ed an 8.75, and Ross an 8. And this game came out for the N64. And then Golf Grand Slam for the, I think, NES. Ed gave it a 7, Rick a 4, and Andy a 9. So Andy and Ed seemed to like it, and Rick thought it was terrible. We have some advertisements from Electro Brain Games. Looks like they're showing Ghoul School here for the NES. And Eliminator Boat Duel for the NES as well. And then some Natsumi games, Spanky's Quest for both the SNES and Game Boy, and Scat for the NES. And then another advertisement for Shatterhand for the Nintendo from Jalico. And then on the back here, an advertisement for Rampart for the NES. Well, guys, that was the fourth ever magazine for Game Informer. I think I've got the first 8, along with all the ones I've collected over the years. The goal at some point is to be able to collect every single one. I was going to do that before they went out of business, but now that they have gone out of business, I'm going to do my best to try to get them and collect them. I appreciate all of you guys. Thank you so much for watching. And please subscribe. Please watch and share the videos. It'll help me out. Goal is to try to get to 4,000 watch hours, and I'm very close. Very close. Need your help to do that. So share the videos, watch them. And again, any comments, questions, recommendations you can have or for videos, please let me know. Once again, I'll see you guys next time. Bye.